The big lie. And there's so many lies. Oh my gosh.
And you know it's starting to happen. You've betrayed their trust, you now realize. The line's been crossed in the sand, and the fire's been fanned. All the people demand to hear the plot that you planned. You won't be trusted anymore.
Yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, you won't be trusted anymore. Of course, that song is dedicated to the mainstream media, and that song was written almost 30 years ago. They are the legacy media, mainstream media. They lie, and they propagandize, and they gaslight, and they massage, and they just do everything they can to keep you off the track. Well, anyway, that's why I'm here. I'm here. This is the WTF. These are, I should say, plural. These are the WTF reports. And I'm here, WTF, if you don't like it, it's with the facts. And once you see the facts and once you hear the realities, then you can exclaim, WTF! Yes, you've been lied to over and over and over again. Anyway, welcome to the WTF Reports. This is a Wednesday, hump day, and don't you ever crump day, the 21st of May, 2025. And the WTF Reports are brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. And I do want to let you know, for you regular listeners out there, tomorrow I will be talking to Linda Banber, who developed the Wave Watch. So you don't want to miss that. She's going to explain to you the technology behind it, how it all came to be, and I think you'll find it very, very interesting. Of course, it's all based upon Tesla and Rife technology. And this is an incredible piece of technology. You can find out more by going to our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on our sponsors page or advertisers page. It'll take you right there, and you can learn all about the Wave Watch. So anyway, make sure you tune in tomorrow to hear Linda Banber. She's going to explain it to you, okay? Anyway, welcome to today's broadcast, and there's so much to cover. And I will start off by saying, everybody's been... Yeah, there's a lot of blowback right now about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Now, there are a lot of people that are saying, wait a second, what happened to Dan Bongino? What happened to Dan Bongino? I got a couple clips here, and like I said, there's a lot of podcasters out there that are talking about this, and I'm going to get to some of the comments that have been coming in. But Dan Bongino, back in 23, he was basically saying, hey, we need to take a look at this Epstein situation because things are not as they seem. Now, you're going to hear Dan Bongino in 2023, 2 years ago, and then you're going to hear him over this past weekend. Here it is.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
Okay, and now here he is over the weekend.
Himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Yeah. So what happened to Dan Bongino? What happened to Kash Patel? What the heck happened to these guys? I remember Kash said day one, we're going to open up the Epstein files. We're still waiting. And a lot of people after this past weekend hearing the two of them saying, yeah, he killed himself. You should have seen the body language on Dan Bongino. I don't know what got to him, but there's a podcaster. His name is Jesus Enrique Rosas, and he posted on YouTube. He said that the body language of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, yes, Epstein offed himself. And like I said, the body language, I mean, Bongino looked like he had been basically slapped down. And one after the other, there's 6,482 comments at this time, and every single one of them, I'm just going to go through here. Let me see. 7Cal KDZ said, Bongino looks scared to death. Usually he's strong, confident, and loud. Another comment. I watched Dan for years on his podcast. He is not a good liar. He looks like he's a hostage to the narrative. Yeah, I agree. Another comment. You don't have to be a body language expert to see they were lying and uncomfortable. Well, that's sure looked like that to me too. Another comment. The problem is the evidence shows it was not a suicide. Yes, we covered that yesterday on today's broadcast. And yes, the evidence is voluminous, indicating it was not a suicide, including the autopsy report. Another comment. Both dismissive. We're not stupid. They're lying. Another comment. They've been captured. They're vulnerable. They both have families. The FBI is no different than the mob. Very sad. Another comment. Someone has gotten to them. They not only look like they didn't believe themselves, they looked scared. One after another after another. I could go all the way down the list, and there's not one supporting comment. None of them. Nobody's buying it, Danny. Nobody's buying it, Kash. We don't believe you. Anyway, I wanted to share that because this is still, it's an onion that's being peeled layer by layer. And people are not buying it. They're just not buying it. And I don't blame them. All right, so that's one issue that we need to face. And you know what? Let me see. Before I move on to the next issue here, there's a bunch of different things here I want to get to. But before I do that, you regular listeners, if you've been listening to me for a while, then you know this little story. But we have a lot of new listeners out there on Rumble and on BitChute and on YouTube. And so I want to take you back on my memory lane. I'm going to take you back about 30 years, back in 95, 96. And that's when I teamed up with Joyce Riley. And she and I became the Batman and Robin of the veterans issues. We were trying to help all the veterans from the first Gulf War. And Joyce was a medical malpractice legal consultant, an expert witness, and she didn't fall off of a turnip truck. And she and I were going to the law libraries down in Houston and printing off every single page of congressional records and Senate reports and after-action reports from the law libraries down in Houston. And we were distributing them to the veterans. And Joyce was being a regular guest on the Art Bell Coast to Coast show, and she was raising all kinds of problems. In the meantime, I wrote a song for the Gulf War veterans, and it's called "Where Are the Voices That Care?" You can find it on YouTube, or you can go to my website. I think there's a link there that'll show you what the song was all about. But anyway, the point is at one point, the Presidential Commission on Gulf War Illness, or Gulf War Syndrome, I should say, that's what they called it, they were having a discussion in San Antonio. So Joyce and I went there, and Joyce was given 10 minutes. And so when she got in front of the panel, she had all the documents. And so she sat down there and said, "Thank you for the opportunity to testify before this prestigious panel. Congressman so-and-so, you sat down on this panel on this congressional record," and she held up the document here. She says, "So you know everything that's in this document about the exposure of our troops to chemicals and biologicals, and I'm sure you've shared this with the rest of this prestigious panel. And I don't want to waste your time or mine or the panel's time going over information that you already have." So then she put that document down. She turned to Senator so-and-so. "Senator so-and-so, you sat in on this Senate report, and you know all the documentation and evidence about the shipments from the ATCC of pathogens. You know, you got all this information, and I'm sure that you shared it with the rest of this prestigious panel, so I don't want to waste your time or mine going over information that you already have." So then she put that document down. Then she picked up an after-action report. "Colonel so-and-so, yes, this is the after-action report from CENTCOM. This is the same report that was given to Norman Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell. And I'm sure you've seen all of the reports there of the chemical and biological exposures to our troops. And I'm sure that you shared this with the rest of the panel." Anyway, the bottom line here is she finished up there, and she had been given 10 minutes, and she says, "Gosh, it's only been 3 minutes. I'm going to turn the remainder of my time over to my husband, and he's going to play a song for you." And meanwhile, these guys that are, Secret Service and security people, they're talking into their sleeves while I pick up my guitar And I stood there and played this song for this panel. And I wanted to play the song because in the lyric, I named names. I gave times, places, dates, the whole 9 yards. And I wanted the lyric in the record. So anyway, I played the song, and that was that. We finished up and went home. Well, about a week later, Joyce gets another phone call from some military guy, and he basically told her that she and I were, quote, strongly invited to attend a meeting. I said, well, that's interesting. Strongly invited. Never heard that before. So anyway, we went back to San Antonio, and I forget whether it was a Sheraton or a Holiday Inn or something, but we got into this big room. There's probably like 65, 70 people in there, and the doors closed, and there were security people at the doors. And then the presenter came up and came to the podium, and basically he says, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I want to let you know that if you're in this room right now, I want you to know that you have all been thoroughly vetted. We know who you are. We know what you're doing. And we're honored to have you here. Whoa. This is all new to me. I mean, I had just recently stumbled down the rabbit hole, became a talk show host a year or two before, and this was all new to me. So anyway, he went on to explain what had happened to our country for the past 150 years, since 1871, and we went through, the first World War I, the League of Nations, blah, blah, blah. Then we got into the issue about JFK's assassination, and he says that was the final nail, because these evil people, these globalists, have their agenda to basically take over this country, and they pretty much got it done. They were at this for decades and decades, a century. But they were stealth, they were diabolical, they were ruthless, and they were patient. But they got it done. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that we're going to get our country back, because these people are evil. But it's not going to happen in a year or a month or a year or maybe even a decade. It's going to take us a long time, because it took them a long time. We have to be just as stealth, just as diabolical, just as ruthless, and just as patient. But we will get it done, because we're the good guys. We're fighting for our country. We are the Whitehats. 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 Anyway, so that was back in 96. That was in February of 96. Well, lo and behold, here, fast forward to 2016. Trump gets elected, and all this lawfare starts coming in, and then they started having the Q posts, and they started talking about, white rabbits and white hats. White hats. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a second, the white hats? You mean the white hats in that meeting back in 96? And so I have my own feeling about the white hats, about the good guys. I do believe that there are good guys fighting against this evil globalist agenda. Now, whether or not they're winning or not, I don't know. But I do know that there's a spiritual battle going on right now. It really is spiritual. This is not conservative versus liberal. It's not right versus left. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's good versus evil. And if you want to say God versus Satan, well, then so be it. But I was drawn to what was drawn to my attention, and in as much that we're talking about good versus evil in a spiritual battle, it drew me to there's a verse in Ephesians chapter 6 and 6:12 in the King James Version, and this is important because this evil's been around for a long time. Check this out. King James Version, Ephesians 6:12, it says, and I read, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Now that's the King James Version. However, in Ephesians, it's in the Geneva Bible, it's different. Okay, it says in the Geneva Bible, and again, that predates the King James Version. The Geneva Bible says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors, the princes of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness which are in high places. Now that's kind of important because King James took out the word and against the worldly governors. Now the way it's phrased in the Geneva Bible, it describes the worldly governors. And again, when you put it all together, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors, the princes of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness which are in high places. So the point is, the Geneva Bible is pointing out that they are worldly governors. In other words, your world leaders. King James didn't want that in there, so he took it out. So this is kind of important because we are fighting the world leaders. That's what we're up against. King James didn't want you to do that. He didn't want you to go up against the leaders. And there's so many different ways that this is being done. All right, anyway, I wanted to throw that out there because, well, we are facing a globalist agenda. The world leaders, the World Economic Forum, the WHO, the UN, the European Union. These are all the quote-unquote world leaders. And yes, they are the princes of darkness in this world. And again, I've said this over and over and over again, and I'll say it until I die. It doesn't make any difference what you believe. It doesn't make any difference what I believe. What matters is what they believe. This is important stuff. Anyway, got some other things I want to get to. Of course, we've been railing about this issue with the spike proteins and what's going on with them. This is some horrible stuff that's going on. Let me see if I've got several different clips here. I don't know which order I should play them, but I want to share with you a couple of things. There's a book that you really should get. And this is a very important book. It's Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. He was a former naval intelligence officer, and the stuff that he wrote, it was almost 35 years ago. This book came out in 1991. All right? So I want to get, let me see, this is page 167. And again, I'm here with the facts, folks. This is what he wrote. Okay? I'm going to share a paragraph here, and then I'm going to share another paragraph. We're going to put it all together. Okay, I read on page 167, several top-secret recommendations were made by Dr. Aurelio Pascal of the Club of Rome. He advocated that a plague be introduced that would have the same effect as the famous Black Death of history. The chief recommendation was to develop a microbe which would attack the autoimmune system and thus render the development of a vaccine impossible. The orders were given to develop the microbe and to develop a prophylactic and a cure. The microbe would be used against the general population and would be introduced by vaccine. The prophylactic was to be used by the ruling elite. The cure would be administered to the survivors when it is decided that enough people have died. The cure will be announced as newly developed when in fact it has existed from the beginning. This plan is part of Global 2000. Of course, now it's Agenda 2025, but it's the same thing. This was written almost 35 years ago, folks. Bill Cooper was on it. Now, furthermore, wait till you hear this. I'm going to move ahead now to page 225. This is also very interesting. So you just heard about how they had a plan way back then to introduce a microbe that would go after the immune system and be introduced by the hokey pokey thingy dingy. Okay, anyway, I move forward now to page 225. And now this sounds like it's unrelated, but it is. I read, the government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for the criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms, using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. Now, there's an author's note here, and this is kind of important. And again, it says here, I have found that these events have indeed happened all over the country. In every instance that I have investigated, the incident at the women's school in Canada, the shopping center incident in Canada, the Stockton, California massacre, and the murder of Rabbi Meir Kahane, the shooters were all ex-mental patients or were current mental patients who were all on the drug Prozac. This drug, when taken in certain doses, increases the serotonin level in the patient, causing extreme violence. Couple that with a post-hypnotic suggestion or control through an electronic brain implant or microwave or ELF intrusion, and you get mass murder, ending in every case with the suicide of the perpetrator. Okay, so mass shootings. He's linking the mass shootings to the SSRI drug Prozac. Now, way back when I was doing the Power Hour radio show, as a regular guest, we had Ann Blake Tracy, who wrote a book called Prozac, Panacea or Pandora. And she explains that these SSRI drugs are extremely dangerous. And again, we're talking, when I was doing the Power Hour, we're talking 20-odd years ago. Well, isn't it interesting that only recently Dr. Brian Ardis made the following statement in regard to these SSRI drugs? Here it is.
52 years of documented school shootings in America, conducted by teenagers. Do you know 100% of them were on either an antidepressant or on a barbiturate drug for anxiety? And every one of these antidepressants, including Prozac, Zoloft, Xanax, you name them, all these anti-anxiety drugs and antidepressants, do you know every single one of them are published to increase the risk of suicide behavior and actions, and I quote, lead to violent and homicidal actions. 100% of all school shooters, for the documented 52 years of history, we've been tracking them and studying them, 100% of all the shooters were on drugs that are published and prescribed by your medical doctor, brought to you by CVS and Walgreens and others.
Yeah, the spike proteins are doing it, folks. Well, guess what? We are under attack on many different levels, and I've said it before. I will continue to say it until people finally get it. The number one agenda of the globalists is to lower the world population drastically. They want to knock out about 93% of the world population. Now, we're approaching 8 billion people, according to numbers. And if that's the case, that means about 7.5 billion people are going to have to die. Well, guess what? It's not just the spike proteins going at, the SSRI drugs. It's not just the spike proteins. Then I've covered this before. Dr. Ernie Burkhart did his research, and I played the audio clip last week, and I played it again earlier this week, where he had found that these spike proteins are lodging in the testes of males and replacing the spermatozoa. And he advised any woman, as his voice was shaking, if I were a young woman, I would seriously consider not having a child with a vaccinated man. You got to let this settle in. Now, it's not just that, but we also covered something called the FUNVAX. Talked about that the other day. And the information, I believe, is at our website. The documentation is there. And this is a vaccine that basically is designed to shut down the part of the brain that is involved in any type of spiritual activity. If you pray or if you meditate, this takes that away from you. So, yeah, they've got this vaccine, and they've also said it's been aerosolized. So we could be breathing that in. Maybe that's why so many people are just not into spirituality anymore. They don't seek God anymore. They've lost their moral compass. Well, it gets even more interesting, because in a recent Zoom conversation between several doctors, There was a doctor by the name of Dr. Fabio Zoffi, and he was talking about the effect on the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland in the endocrine system is very vital to your spiritual existence. Here's what he had to say.
I want to add also a comment to what Tina said about the change in personality, depression, and all these things. This is very real. And we have identified the reasons from the theory, and some doctors in Italy some pathologists have confirmed that. The spike protein, unfortunately, attacks and destroys also the endocrine system. So the glands producing hormones, and hormones are what make our emotions and feelings and all those things. And so an Italian pathologist near Venice, he went on a newspaper telling that all the brains he had investigated, he found the pineal gland completely destroyed on all the people who were vaccinated. Okay, so the spike protein is also very dangerous for the endocrine system. That's why people have these changes in personality and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is horrendous, because if it destroys the pineal gland, and if they've got this aerosolized treatment, shall we say, that's going to shut down the part of the brain that has anything to do with spirituality or inner peace. They're stealing your soul. I mean, I can't see it. I can't put it any other way. And we're under attack on many different fronts. As a matter of fact, I played this clip. This is Dr. Naomi Wolf, and she's talking about how the hokey pokey thingy dingy is affecting the female reproductive systems. Give a listen to this.
The centerpiece of the Pfizer papers is an intentional attack on human sexuality, and especially on women and babies. They killed the babies and they knew it. They poisoned the breast milk and they knew it. They damaged the placentas and they knew it. They lowered the sperm count and they knew it. They have a chart of the babies they're injuring. They have a chart of the women's menstrual cycles that they're disrupting. They concluded that babies were dying in utero due to maternal exposure to the vaccine. And this is the document that went to Dr. Walensky, and then she gave a press conference saying, you've got to get a vaccine, a COVID vaccine, before, during, or after your pregnancy. So this is satanic, right? This is satanic on a massive level. And you look at Borla and you look at, the fact that they knew they were doing this, which if you read the Pfizer papers, you cannot conclude otherwise. And this 13 to 20% drop in live births. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they tried to kill us. They tried to wipe us out. They tried to sterilize us. A lot of people died. There's going to be horrible struggles with fertility, but we survived and the truth came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are surviving, and the truth is coming out. The question is, are we going to survive this as time goes by? Okay, now I could pull this up, but there was another doctor, what's the word? She deals with pregnancies. Anyway, she'd seen an 800% increase in miscarriages in the past several years. This is madness, just madness. And yes, again, it doesn't make any difference what I believe. It doesn't make any difference what you believe. What matters is what they believe, and they believe they have to kill a huge number of human beings. That's just the way it is. I don't mean to bring you down or anything, but as a matter of fact, it's time to take a quick break. Here we go.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
That's right, and you can get more tank if you visit our website. Come on, you could do it. Yeah, go to TheWTFReports.com, visit our sponsors page, and check out Get More Tank. There's a link there to take you to their website with all the technical information. If you have any questions about how it's going to affect your vehicle, the answers are there. And once you read up on it, then you'll go, this sounds pretty good. And it is. So, $22.22 is the price. You get a 10% discount if you use the promo code REDPILL101. And so it costs you $20. You get 5 tablets. And I promise you, you will notice a very marked increase in the performance of your vehicle. And after using those 5 tablets, you'll experience an increase in mileage between 15 and 20%, depending upon your make, model, year of vehicle and how you drive. So this is a win-win situation. Absolutely. You won't be sorry. So visit our website, TheWTFReports.com, and get more tank. All right, that said, all the stuff that we're talking about here, I mean, I got to tell you, the word frustration doesn't do it for me. I mean, I've been screaming from the rooftops for 3 decades. You know, I'm going to share with you a song that I wrote 30 years ago, back in 1995, and it was on the first album, Will Someone Listen? And I hate to say it, but there's no joy in I told you so for either party.
There's something brewing, people know that things aren't right. We're in the dark, it's black as night. And when the ones who see the truth try to convey, they're ridiculed and turned away. But now it's time for us to see there really is conspiracy. If we don't act, we won't be free. We must be brave or be a slave. I think we all know we've been lied to through the years. Events confirm our darkest fears. And in denial, we still act like nothing's wrong. We work so hard to get along. Manipulate and rearrange. The plan is brilliant and long range. And no one notices the change. Understand, it's all been planned. We can prevail, we can make our freedom last. Forget your history and you'll repeat your past. Search your heart and you'll know that it's true. It's up to us. What will we do? 2 Timothy, it's there in chapter 3. It's in the book for all to see. With so much knowledge, yet so distant from the truth, polluting minds of all our youth. It's written in our history. So blind are eyes that will not see. It's up to you, it's up to me. We must be brave or be a slave.
Yeah, it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to all of us. We must be brave or be a slave. That's what it comes down to. We're going to have to muster every bit of courage that we can to face the monster and stare him in the eye, because he can't stand that. Anyway, if you want to join me, I encourage you to do so. The phone line is open. It's 215-867-8255. Again, that's 215-TOP-TALK. 215-867-8255. Now, before I took that little commercial break, I was talking about how there is a plan to eliminate our ability to connect with the spiritual side of life. And there was a guy by the name of Rudolf Steiner, and he lived from 1861 to 1925. And I want to share with you what he wrote. Okay, here it says. It says, in the future, we will eliminate the soul with medicine. Under the pretext of a healthy point of view, there will be a vaccine by which the human body will be treated as soon as possible directly at birth, so that the human being cannot develop the thought of the existence of soul and spirit. To materialistic doctors, which will be entrusted the task of removing the soul of humanity. As today, people are vaccinated against this disease or that disease, so in the future, children will be vaccinated with a substance that can be produced precisely in such a way that people, thanks to this vaccination, will be immune to being subjected to the madness of spiritual life. He would be extremely smart, but he would not develop a conscience. And that is the true goal of some materialistic circles. With such a vaccine, you can easily make the etheric body loose in the physical body. Once the etheric body is detached, the relationship between the universe and the etheric body would become extremely unstable, and man would become an automaton for the physical body of man must be polished. An automaton for the physical body of man must be polished on this earth by spiritual will. So the vaccine becomes a kind of, what is that? Arimanic? I can't make that word out. Arimanic force. Sorry about that. Man can no longer get rid of given materialistic feelings. He becomes materialistic of constitution and can no longer rise to the spiritual. So this has been around for a long time. This goal has been around for well over a century. And it looks like they're accomplishing their goal. It's scary stuff, folks. It really is. But anyway, I'm going to have to change subject here for just a moment. Again, if you want to join me, now's the time to do it. 215-867-8255. Okay, in another subject, a lot of folks are looking at what's happening with Biden right now. Of course, they just came out and said, hey, we're sorry to announce this, but President Biden, has stage 4 advanced cancer. How did they not know this? How did they not know this until just recently? Well, what do you know? He's got stage 4 cancer and it's terminal. They've known this for a long time. but they just didn't let that out. Of course, we all know about his cognitive skills or lack thereof. But I got to tell you, folks, this is craziness. It is absolute craziness. Now, let me see if I can find that. There was a clip here I wanted to play. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Okay, here it is. Okay, Trump was talking about what happened with the Autopen. Now, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Now, if the powers that be, if the people in the White House knew that that Biden was very sick and they were just propping him up, yeah, there's the issue about the Autopen. Now, Trump said the following. This is, I believe this is yesterday. Here it is.
And now you found out and find out what happened, because Biden, look, it's a very sad thing what happened, but we're going to start looking into this whole thing with who signed this legislation. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. I said there's nobody that could want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the Autopen? This is a very serious thing. We had a president that didn't sign anything. He auto-penned almost everything. He opened the borders of the United States of America. And I kept saying, who would do such a thing? Allowing criminals to pour in from all over the world, not just South America, all over the world. They came in from Africa. They came in from Asia. They came from the Congo. The prisons in the Congo in Africa, these are rough people. The prisons from the Congo are empty. You know where they are? They're in this country. Who would sign this? Nobody would sign it. No sane person would sign it. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the Autopen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift. He'll do anything. We're going to use the Autopen. And they used the Autopen and everything. He didn't approve this stuff because when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders.
No, he wouldn't have. That's a good point. So who did that? Who was calling the shots in the White House? Because we know that Biden could barely put together a couple of coherent sentences. He couldn't walk up or down stairs. He kept falling down on stage. And then when he finished rambling or mumbling into the microphone, he would turn this way, and then he would turn the other way, and he'd go extend his hand like he was going to shake hands with somebody, but there's nobody there. We all know that this was the issue. Jake Tapper, of course, on CNN was denying it. Oh, yeah, he's sharp as a tack, and he's da-da-da-da-da. And everybody was saying, oh, this is the best Joe Biden we've ever had, and blah, blah, blah. They were propping him up in the horse like El Cid. They all knew that he was not all there, and they took advantage of it. So what's going to happen about this? Now, again, there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who have had it up to here with the corruption. And again, I point out, if you've got a bank robber who runs out of the bank, he's got a bag full of money he just stole, and he's running down the street, and he gets caught immediately, what do? You put together an inquiry panel? You put together some sort of an investigation before you arrest him? No. You arrest the guy right then and there, and then you begin the investigation, and you gather your evidence. That's the way it's supposed to work, but no, not in the government. No, We've got so much treason going on. It's wholesale. And again, it's rules for thee and not for me. So if they arrest a bank robber, then why aren't they arresting people here? They've got so much evidence against the Biden crime family. Hunter Biden, yep. Jill Biden and the entire family getting millions and millions and millions of dollars from overseas, from China, from Ukraine, plus, of course, all the money that gets sent over to Ukraine gets bounced back to the Democratic Party. I mean, this is all evidence. It's real hard evidence, and nobody's being arrested. So now, and then you see what happened with Kash Patel and with Dan Bongino. It seems like somebody read them the riot act. Maybe they've made some sort of a threat against them. Maybe just possibly it has to do with
bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Coercion. Yeah, well, how does that play out? Well, I remember back in the 90s, when Joyce and I were traveling around the country trying to help veterans, we were in Colorado. We met with one of the senators there. And Joyce approached the senator and said, Senator, you know this. You've got the Senate reports. You know that these guys were exposed to chemicals, biologicals, and they're being told that it's all in their head, and they're not getting any help. You've got all the documentation. You've got the evidence. Why aren't you helping the veterans? And his response was, because my daughter is 15 years old, and I want to make sure she has a sweet 16 party. That's how it's played, folks. This is what we're up against. So I wonder what happened to Dan Bongino. I wonder what happened to Kash Patel. I wonder what happened to Pam Bondi. I wonder what happened to all of these people that were making, promises made, promises kept. Well, where are they? Where are they? I want to know. When are we going to start seeing perp walks? When are we going to see orange jumpsuits, handcuffs and leg irons? When are we going to see these military tribunals that some people out there have been, like Judy Byington, they're saying, oh, yeah, well, Hillary Clinton was executed back in 2018. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what about Derek Johnson? Hey, Derek, you've been talking about these military tribunals going on, for 3 years now? And yet nothing's happening. And I think that we conservatives, we're being played. And I hate to say it, and I just explained to you that, yes, I was in a Whitehats meeting 30 years ago. Well, 29 years ago anyway. I do believe that there are good guys. But I don't know whether they have been marginalized or compromised. I don't know what's going on. But something has got to break. Something has got to, because I have a sneaking suspicion that the powers that be, they're trying to foment a civil war. They want the conservatives and the liberals to go after each other. And as a matter of fact, there is a rabbi that, okay, I'll go ahead and play this. This might upset some people, and frankly, I don't care. But this is a rabbi explaining what their plan is. Okay, give this a listen.
The greatest danger in the world is if Esav and Yishmael ever came together.
Okay, Esav and Ishmael, that means Christians and Muslims. Okay, here it is.
If they ever united, says the Gra, if Edom and Yishmael ever united, they would destroy the world. You can never mix Cain and Hevel together. When Cain and Hevel come together, they destroy the world. Esav is Cain and Yishmael is Hevel. 2 times in history, Edom and Yishmael get together, and those were the 2 most dangerous moments in the collective history of the Jewish people.
Okay, of the Jewish people. So they're terrified that Christians and Muslims might join hands and say, hey, look at the other way. And this is why the Christians and Muslims are being pitted against each other. He continues.
So that is why the Rebbeinu Shalom does us a big favor. He makes sure that Ad Hayom, Edom and Yishmael never get together. And that's why we wish both of these ummahs in their war against each other, bracha v'hatzlacha. My message to both of them is we wish both of them tremendous hatzlacha. They should wipe each other out. No, none of them should be same. Both sides should mamish be matzliach as much as possible. We wish both sides tremendous hatzlacha in their avodah of wiping out the other party.
Mm-hmm. You put one against the other. Now, and look at history. I mean, ever since, we go back to the 70s and 80s and the plane hijackings, of course, they're always Muslim extremists. Yeah. And then there was the 9/11 attack. Of course, they were all Muslim extremists. Okay? And then, of course, you have, the Oklahoma City bombing, of course, the right-wing extremists, Christian extremists, Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols and John Doe No. 1, and they were all linked to the militia and the extreme right Christian movement. So we have extremist Christians and we have extremist Muslims, but we never hear about extremist Jews. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, I'm just throwing this stuff out there and asking questions. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just basically putting it out there. You connect the dots. You figure this stuff out. Anyway. Let me see. We got about 5 minutes left here before the end of the show. There is a gentleman here. He was pretty PO'd. I don't blame him. And with all that's going on in this country, And with the fact that, there was a podcast with Clayton Morris. You know, he does a podcast called Redacted. And Clayton Morris is good friends with Tucker Carlson. They both worked at Fox News for some years. But they were talking with J.J. Carroll, who's been following what's been going on in the border for the past several years. And the fact that we've got an estimated between 20 and 30 million illegal immigrants that have come across the border into this country. Many of them are hostile. They are from countries that hate this country. Of course, there's a lot of drug dealers, a lot of sex traffickers, you know, a lot of that stuff is going on. Now, Tom Homan's doing the best that he can, given the resources that he has available. And you hear on the news, there were 300 people busted and deported, and here's another bust of 150 people. Yeah, but we're dealing with 20 to 30 million. At the rate that they're arresting and deporting people with the resources that they have, it's going to take 10 years to get all the illegal hostiles out of this country. Now, that's not to say that they're all bad, not all of them. There are some that did come here because they were oppressed. And, of course, now the big story is what's going on in South Africa. The white farmers are literally being hunted down and murdered, and their farms are being taken from them. And this morning, Trump was talking to the president of South Africa, and that was being addressed. So a lot of South Africans, white South Africans, are now coming to the United States looking for refuge. Now, there are some on the left, the Democrats, are screaming bloody murder about this. What is wrong with you people? What is wrong with the left? Why do you have a problem with people coming to this country who are genuinely trying to escape from oppression and murder? And yet, they got a problem with that, but they don't have a problem with opening up the borders and letting everybody in here? Anyway, we got some problems coming up here, folks. But anyway, there's a guy here that made a very good point in regard to the Second Amendment, and we may have to exercise that. Here it is.
The right is full of cowards, but the left is just full of sick people. People will go at great lengths to politicize and weaponize a tragedy. I want to address the leftists out there that think this is a gun problem. We've had guns here since the dawn of time, but only in the last 20 years have we had mass shootings. Every single year, it gets more difficult to get a rifle, but every single year we see more mass shootings. But please explain to me how this is a gun problem and not a mental health problem. And you sick bastards, the one that say, how many children need to die before you give up your Second Amendment? All of them. Is that what you want to hear? Is that the sound clip you're looking for so you can dunk on the right-wingers? Nobody's out to solve problems anymore. It's all about dunking on the political opposition. To the right-wingers out there saying maybe it is time for gun control. Here's a PSA for everybody that doesn't seem to quite understand the purpose of the Second Amendment. Second Amendment's not for hunting. It's not for the range. It's not for self-defense. Second Amendment is leverage against your government. It's a dead man switch. Purpose of the Second Amendment is to live free or die. To the lefties, oh, you think you stand a chance against the military? No, I don't. I'm not stupid. Push came to shove, an AR-15 is nothing compared to an F-35. If it really came down to it, the first Marine who was a decent shot would probably take me out. But the point is that they would have to take me out, that I will go down swinging. And most people are tired of saying that what happened is an absolute tragedy. When you hear the details of what actually happened in Texas, it's pretty tough to imagine. Even if I thought that abolishing the Second Amendment would somehow stop all school shootings, I still wouldn't do it, because I'm not some emotional single-issue voter. You can't just look at single issues in a vacuum. You have to look at them with respect to everything else. You know, more kids die every year sniffing fentanyl than being shot by an AR-15, but you'll fight to keep that southern border open. More Americans die at the hands of illegal immigrants, but you'll fight to keep that southern border open. So are you really about saving lives, or is it just about disarming your political opposition?
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's broadcast. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff in there today, didn't I? Well, okay. Anyway, if you're enjoying the broadcast, I certainly hope you are. Please share it. Tell your friends, your family, your co-workers. Go to TheWTFReports.com, share it with your friends, and if you're listening on YouTube or BitChute or Rumble, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. That's how we grow. All right, that said, we're going to be finishing up here for this Wednesday, Hump Day, Don't You Ever Crump Day of the WTF Reports. I'm Dave vonKleist. I thank you for your listenership. As always, God bless you all. Stay safe and stay free. I'll see you tomorrow. I got another 5 seconds here. Yeah, okay. Share it, folks. You guys won't be trusted.